Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to show you some new tools that we implemented in this electric drum kit here at South Fellowship Church. I've got Eric, who's actually on the Churchfront team here. He's also the best drummer I know, which is why I wanted him to be here for the video to demo this kit for you. And we've got Aaron, worship pastor here at South Fellowship Church. He was the brains and strategy behind taking this kit to the next level. So if you have an electric drum kit that was similar to the one that we have here, maybe it's a more budget-friendly, amateur level drum kit, and you want to upgrade it, maybe with a better drum brain and samples, as well as cymbals, you've come to the right place.
So it's an ATV drum kit, but here's the problem. The reason we made, the initiator behind some of the changes we made were our cymbals were starting to break. Like certain zones were just not functioning properly. We lost a bell sound, for example. So I just was like, I need to go find a solution. ATV actually no longer manufactures or something like that. Or I don't know if they went bankrupt or what, but I just started to research, and I'm a huge believer that if you can provide equipment and sounds and tools for your players that make them feel more comfortable, you're just going to get a better player. And so I started exploring metal cymbals, and I just Googled and found field cymbals, did a bunch of research, heard a bunch of really good things about the build quality and all of that sort of thing. And I thought, man, if I could give them a better stick feel and solve our broken cymbal issue at the same time, great. So that was the first purchase I made, was these field cymbals. They're metal. They look even more authentic on our kit. They're built like tanks. Incredible. So that was our first step, but I was still struggling to get a quality bell sound, and I found out later that the drum brain that we were operating with before couldn't capitalize on all the features of the field cymbals. Like, for example, we actually have a touch to mute capacity on these cymbals, which is great, and the bell sound still wasn't triggering properly. And I found out because our old Alesis drum brain just didn't have the capacity to capitalize on that. I started exploring. I talked to the company, the field cymbal company, and they said, you know what? Our favorite drum brain is the Mimic Pro. And so I made the call to go ahead and pick up the Mimic Pro, and man alive, it's been great.
Which I had encountered before. In the past, I was at Sweetwater one time, and they had a setup with the Mimic Pro. I think it was a Pearl shells, electric drum triggers. And what was exciting about the Mimic Pro is the quality of samples you're getting with it. It's powered by Slate samples. So this is just really the best drum samples, in my opinion, that you can get. A lot of us are used to maybe using the Slate trigger plugin, and maybe you do some drum replacement. So it's using that same quality of samples with ultra low latency and such, all packed within this one brain right here, the Pearl Mimic Pro. And it's also worth noting, it's kind of been this kit is kind of a Frankenstein electric kit, right? Because we started with the ATV kit, which is great. The shells are great. Like you said, the cymbals had to be replaced. But another issue we ran into with the ATV kit originally is it only had stereo left-right output from its
original brain, yeah.
From the original brain. That's why we are upgraded to the Strike Pro by Alesis, which I still think is a great brain if you especially have Alesis triggers and such. But then we had this kind of like, what was it? Oh, we were like using both brains at one time.
So the ATV drum brain did a better job handling both the ride and the hats. Yep. And so we ran it for the ride and hats, and then we ran the Alesis for the others. And so, yeah, it was very much Frankenstein. It's actually most unified right now than it's been.
Yeah, because again, these cymbals go great with the Mimic Pro, and then these ATV triggers also work really great with the Mimic Pro. So it's all finally unified. As a sound guy, what I like is how everything is all broken out separately for our multi-track control back at front of house, and I'll show you more details about that later on in the video. But you know what? It doesn't matter what I think as a sound guy or what you think as a worship leader. It's this guy's opinion who matters most. So we're gonna give Eric a microphone now, and we can actually test some of these new features and see what his thoughts are on the setup. All right, Eric, you played on this kit for about 15 minutes now. Probably not quite enough time to really have a nuanced opinion, but I think you at least can give us kind of your quick first impressions on what it's like playing on this setup. Have you ever played on metal cymbals on electric kit before?
So no, I've never played on electric cymbals on an electric kit. You know, being primarily a acoustic drummer, I'm pretty picky about the feel and the dynamic of cymbals. So it was interesting to play on the electric metal cymbals today.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I'm not a drummer, but yeah, like when that stick hits the rubber cymbals, it just like, that's what makes, to me, when I think about the bad things about electric drums, like that's probably the first thing that stands out. I can get over the mesh heads and kind of feels almost like a real drum heads and stuff like that. But cymbals, like when you hit it and there's not even a tactile sound that's created, analog, from making the contact on these rubber ones. I mean, it's a little bit of sound, but now here you actually get that ping, that metal ping of the wood to the metal cymbal that, again, I'm not a drummer, but for someone who has an opinion about drums, that just feels so much better. And psychologically, I feel like it's a lot better.
Yeah, I'd say that's my biggest complaint about electric kits in general is that plastic cymbal feel where you're hitting it and it just feels like you're hitting a sack or like something. And then that mute feature as well on these cymbals is great because it actually feels like a real cymbal where you actually just touch it and it's muting, where the traditional kind of style of the electric cymbal is you got to like really pinch the edge. See, I can't even get it to like properly mute. So that was a huge thing I noticed in playing when you are muting. It feels more like dynamic like a real cymbal.
We're pausing this video for just a moment to tell you about our sponsor, Digital Glue. If you're in the media production game, whether it's at a small church, a large church, or anything in between, you're gonna wanna hear about Creative Space. It's a one-of-a-kind, all-inclusive storage service which provides an affordable on-site server which you can access globally via VPN, and the Creative Space team takes care of all of the tech. Your church doesn't need a dedicated IT staff member to support it. You guys know I've been making videos for the Churchfront channel for over 6 years now, and my team has grown to a place where it's not just me editing videos. We needed a solution that could handle the multiple terabytes of footage we capture every single month and gives us maximum flexibility for collaborative editing. That's why we started using Creative Space's Rogue Pro solution here at Churchfront. Here's the lowdown. Create a storage space and share it with your team. Set up templates with variables to rapidly create folders and project files, ready with custom naming and permissions. Transfer assets and mount directly to your desktop with built-in tools for seamless collaboration. Every folder and file has a shareable link, and you can tag assets to quickly find what you're looking for with libraries. There's no need for each of our team members to copy all of the assets onto their own hard drives, which saves us a ton on storage costs. We can edit off the same server, whether we are all in one office or we are collaborating remotely. Yes, network speed does matter, but the Creative Space team is there to help find solutions like optimized proxy files or remote desktop for slow connection. The cool thing about Creative Space is we are able to collaborate from anywhere using the same files. I've dabbled with other network attached storage in the past, but many of them were unreliable, susceptible to ransomware, and a headache to set up and maintain. The Rogue Pro server, the intuitive software, the proactive support ensure that we have the performance and capability we need while keeping everything up and running smoothly. Ready to simplify your church creative team's workflow? Click the link in the description and schedule a demo today.
The hat closed. Feels pretty natural. I like the way that feels. Definitely better than like a plastic type hi-hat. So you're getting some response off of it. You're able to do double strokes much easier than you would be able to on a piece of plastic. Now, as you open it is where I see some of the difficulty with having this set up. Now, as it's opening, you have to be intentional about when you want that open sound to come. So you have to almost pre-open it to get the sound that you're really looking for. But I'll kind of show you. But I'm using kind of the body of the stick on the edge to get more of the open sound, and it maybe is more dramatic than it would be on a typical hi-hat, but I'm still able to get that closed to open transition to happen pretty well. When you're closing it, very responsive right away, that feels great. But compared to your traditional, plastic hi-hat, definitely prefer that sort of feel. Now, as we move to the first crash here, we can kind of get the sense of from kind of low dynamic to higher. So you can hear the different levels as I'm kind of intense, going through the different levels, and it goes from quiet to loud. Now, it's not as dynamic as it would be on a traditional cymbal, but definitely better, again, than the plastic version. Now, let's go to the ride. I was actually probably happiest with the ride, just the way it felt natural. I really like the bell, how that it's configured there. But again, you can get a lot of different tone. But then when you go to the bell, you notice a lot happening there. So that's very natural sound for a bell. But again, was really happy riding on this kind of, through the chorus sections of the song. Felt very good. I was probably, again, happiest with that piece. Go over to this cymbal to my right, the second crash. We'll kind of go through the dynamic range here too. I got to lay into it pretty well to get it to that highest level. And you can configure that within the brain here to get that to be more responsive to your style, which is cool. But we'll kind of go through that one more time. So yeah, I'm pretty laying into it there, so I'd adjust that if I had a little bit more time with the kit. So yeah, that kind of breaks down the cymbals and my thoughts there.
Let's talk about the Mimic Pro here. And again, I know you've actually haven't used one of these till today, right? But what are your initial impressions if you showed up at a church and you had to sit down as maybe a newer drummer or even a contract drummer and had to work with it? Like, how do you like it?
I love the functionality. Pretty simple menu. I think it would take me a little bit to kind of get deeper into it in terms of getting the exact tone that I want. But what I do love is got all of your most common kits out there, from Ludwig to Tama to Pearl. All of those are modeled in here. And so you're able to find the sounds that really maybe you gravitate towards on a real kit. So you can see we actually have two different snares here, and they're mixed together. One snare layer is at 75%, one is 25%, to kind of get the right vibe of the drummers that play here into the room as well. But the cool thing is you can actually hook two different ride cymbals into this. And I don't know of many drum modules that you can hook two different ride cymbals into, so there's that versatility. Overall, I really like it. I think that there's a ton of functionality that you can really tinker with. If you're a professional drummer, this is the type module that you want, because this is not just a plug and play, just give me a sample kit that sounds good. This is, I really want to dial my sound in. I want to be able to tune the drums electrically. And then you can also input your own sounds as well. So if there's a cajon or some Latin type percussion that you want to implement, you can load those in via USB, which is really cool.
You don't play electric kits very often. You did play the F-Note 7 a couple weeks ago at Churchfront Live.
Right.
We were happy with that. How does that compare? How would you compare the two experiences there?
Yeah, the F-Note, I would say for the F-Note, the kick drum and the vibe of the mesh heads, I felt pretty good about that. I felt like it might have been a little bit better in terms of the response. I think that's the hardest thing as being an acoustic player going to electric, is initially you feel like, am I playing guitar here or rock band? And then just trying to feel that dynamic range. So if I can sit down on a kit and it feels natural to me right away, that's going to be ideal. So I would say the F-Note in terms of the mesh heads felt a little bit better. These cymbals I definitely prefer to the full plastic, but I would say those are the biggest differences.
Yeah, I wonder if you could use the F-Note shells and then just upgrade maybe to the field cymbals to have that better feel, because I think the F-Note is a really great kind of one and done integrated system. But I wanted to show you guys too just how, from an audio standpoint, this is all set up. This is the back of the brain. So these are all of the inputs from the triggers coming from the cymbals and the shells. And then here we have our direct line out breakout that's actually going to go over to our stage box. So you can see here, we've got the XLR breakout to our little Behringer stage box. We've got 8 channels going back to front of house, and the channels are kick, snare, high tom, middle tom, low tom, hat, 2 overheads, and then we actually ran out of channels on this stage box, so we have 1 more channel going to a different floor pocket for our ride cymbal. Then we also have a master out left-right mix that's going to front of house into its own stereo channel. That doesn't go to the front of house mix, that just goes to the P16 in-ear monitor units. Whatever Eric does here for the master mix, this is only going to affect the master left, right, out, these stereo cables, and that's going to come to the P16 units here.
So yeah, let's talk about the snare for a minute. I did notice the dynamic range and the different tonality of the drum from the middle to the outside was very nice. And so if you kind of listen to the sound from just dead center, but as you move that out, you're actually going to hear that tonality change lower. That's really accurate to a standard snare drum, acoustic drum, and that's the type of thing you really want to look for when you're selecting an electronic kit, because the more of those things that mimic a real drum, you're just going to feel more comfortable, you're going to feel more at home. If you're used to playing acoustic kits, you know where to hit them and how you like to. So I may hit the snare differently than 10 other drummers, but I have a kind of a unique way that I do that, where you're getting some rim and then some snare. And so if it can emulate that, that's ideal. But let's just listen to a roll here and what that's kind of sounding like as well. So yeah, it goes from a low dynamic level to high pretty well, and it's matching every stroke. That's another thing that is common in some of the electronic kits is they'll pick up every other hit or something like that, so it's not a consistent, you're not getting every hit that's being recorded, which is going to affect your playing and the sound that you're getting in the house as well. But I feel like it's picking them all up really well. For me, this snare is tuned a little high, so I'd probably bring it down. I think Aaron and probably the drummer that's here like the sound for this room and for a couple other different reasons. I would tune it probably a little bit different, maybe a Ludwig, something like that. But that's the cool thing about this kit is that, with this Brain, with this Mimic Pro, you can actually really dial those sounds in, and you're going to have to take some time to do that, but you can experiment, you can get creative, and that's a cool thing is you're a true artist, you're a true professional, you're going to want that versatility when you're selecting something like this.
Yeah, you can see here, like I can go in here, I can select the snare, I can then adjust the mic, I can adjust the mic effects, I can modulate kind of the sound of the snare, so dampening, attack, sustain, release, the tuning of it, if I wanted to tune the snare up or down. I can add effects like reverb inside the Brain itself. For the most part, we're sending a dry signal to front of house, so we can add those things later on, but ton of capability within this Mimic. And then the other last note about it is like you can just feel like it's got a really good build quality to it. It's just the screen feels great. The chassis of it feels really great. And this guy's actually been around, I think, for more than 5 years now. So it's not like a brand new product, but I'm surprised I haven't seen it in the House of Worship more, just because it seems such like a solid unit and it sounds so great.
Yeah, I think Roland's kind of owned the market for quite some time, and now some new companies like this and F-Note are coming out and really revolutionizing and taking things to another level as well.
One idea that you might want to consider with the Mimic is maybe you want to do kind of a hybrid drum kit, hybrid acoustic electric, where you can have real acoustic shells and you can kind of go back and forth, and you could put maybe those like external triggers that mount on a rim. They're not going to give you quite the nuance that these type of triggers have, because they have the internal trigger on the inside of the shell that gives you more of that variation depending on where you're actually hitting the head. But there's just so many options now, and especially in a church, you guys know how much of a headache it is dealing with stage volume in churches and not always having drummers like Eric who can actually play to the room, and it could just cause a lot of headaches. So definitely would consider this setup. So that's enough talking about the drum set. Before we actually keep talking about it, I want you to hear Eric and Aaron play Make Room, an actual worship song many of you guys are playing, so you can hear this contextualized for House of Worship.
I will make room for you, yeah. Do whatever you want to. Do whatever you want to, yeah. I will make room for you. Do whatever you want to, yeah. Whatever you want to, shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better, your way is better, yeah. Shake up the ground for my religion, break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better, your way is better, yeah. Shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the walls for my tradition. Your way is better, your way is better, yeah. Shake up the ground for my tradition, break down the walls for my religion. Your way is better, your way is better. I will make room for you.
I wanted to show you guys what this looks like at front of house. So here are all the channels for the drum set. You've got kick, snare, high tom, middle tom, low tom. Hi-hat gets its own channel. Then we've got the overhead mics, and then we've got the ride cymbal on its own channel as well. And then if I go to this channel here, channel number 33, this is the channel that is for the drum in-ear monitoring. This channel, of course, not being sent to any mix buses or main mixes. It's really just being directed to the P16s. And here's an overview of all the signals coming in here. Of course, it's really important to make sure you have good gain staging on all of your channels to make sure you have a great, strong signal to work with. And because these samples do sound so great, I'm honestly not doing a whole lot to them other than some compression. And then we do have a drum bus where we have a little bit more compression as well. We've got a drum smash channel where we can actually have the signal going through this distressor-like plugin as well to give it a little bit more kick and a little bit more pop. As a front of house mix engineer, I'm just a huge fan of the control I have of the drum kit. I also like how the overhead mics are not just the cymbals, they actually emulate real overhead mics. So let me go ahead and I'll actually show you what this would sound like. So you're just gonna hear just the simulated overhead mics right now. Notice you hear the kick still a little bit, the snare a little bit, as if I had real microphones over a real kit. Now I'll bring in the other pieces of the kit. So much control back here at front of house, and it just sounds very realistic for being an electric drum kit. And then this drum kit is able to really just sit so well within the mix with the rest of our band. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful if you're looking to take your electric kit to the next level. Thank you, Eric. Speaking of Eric, if you want to get in touch with our team, he's our first point of contact for you to be able to reach out, hop on a call. Let's do a free strategy session. We can learn more about your worship ministry, ministry, and we can implement a plan for moving things forward. So click that link below this video to learn more about that accelerator program. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, and we'll see you next time.